Thank you. Whenever people come up to me in the supermarket or the bathroom and tell me that they like the band, they always say that they love the record The Con. Or they say, oh my god, you're way shorter than I thought you'd be. And when we were getting ready to write Heartthrob, I felt all this pressure initially, and I wrote a bunch of songs that probably would have been well suited for The Con. And I think Sara kind of had an eloquent and sensitive way to tell me that. But it's so hard because when we put out The Con, one of the most exciting things about putting out The Con was that we went from sort of starving and sort of suffering a little bit and not really finding our groove and not knowing where we fit and not necessarily having that much support to all of a sudden you people were there, and it was so cool. And I remember every single time I played this song since, for the last like 6 years, the story that I always think of was we were playing our biggest show ever to date. We were playing in a city that's very close to where we grew up called Edmonton, and it was a very nice theater, a very beautiful theater like this, but they didn't want anyone to stand up, and everybody kept trying to stand up, and every time people would stand up, the ushers would come running down the aisle and they would tell people to sit down, and they were quite old, all the ushers, and so it was very stressful watching this whole thing. And people were starting to get stressed, and they were starting to argue. It was very distracting, and so when we started to play this song, I suggested that perhaps people should close their eyes and imagine themselves standing, rather than actually physically standing. Like we would do a group meditation, if you will. And so I had them turn up the lights, and I told everybody that I was going to watch them, and that they needed to keep their eyes closed. And I'm sure they thought that was really creepy, but the coolest thing started to happen about the first chorus, second verse. People started to stand up, and they had their eyes closed, but they said that later on someone was telling me you could hear the seats hitting the back of the chairs, and by the end of the second chorus, like 3,000 people were on their feet, and the ushers just looked totally like, but I remember I got off stage and I called the girl that I really liked at the time, who had written a lot of the record for her, and I told her the story, and she was like, that sounds so exciting, and I was like, oh my god, it's the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. And anyway, you're already standing, so it's not like that. And I know you all have balloons under your seats, so let them out! No, I'm just kidding. But it was a really cool moment, and whenever I play the song, I think about it, and I just feel so grateful in these moments when we can strip things down, just down to the four of us in this case, but we can have this moment with our audience, and just thank you so much for being such a lovely audience. And thank you for becoming fans all along the way, but specifically thank you for coming on board during the con. That was a really, really great time in our lives. So I dedicate this one to you guys. I felt you in my legs before I got you. And when I laid aside for the first time, I told you I feel you in my heart. I don't even